Hello everybody! In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, I will be doing a few videos about my mental health journey. I would just like to warn you now that there will be discussions about certain topics including self-harm, depression, disordered eating, suicidal ideation. There will be no images to back up what I'm talking about, but if you are easily triggered or if you are triggered by any of these topics, I would suggest maybe not watching this video. I don't want to hurt anybody or anybody's health journey. If this is not on your health journey, then I don't mind if you click away. My personal mental health journey started when I was a freshman in high school, around, I think, 2012. I was sort of introduced to the idea of self-harm at this time. I had a friend who was harming herself at the time. I didn't fully understand it, but I did see it, and so I looked it up. We had conversations, this friend and I looked it up on the internet, and I sort of fell into, it wasn't exactly one of the Tumblr, but it was a segment of Instagram that took screenshots from specific pages on Tumblr, and I kind of learned about depression and eating disorders through that site or through that method, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. That friend later committed suicide that same year, and I was forced to go to counseling because all of the close friends of that person were required to see somebody for their mental health in order to prevent further suicides. I did not know that that was the reason at the time, but I'm now in an abnormal psychology class in college, and I'm now learning that it's common practice to give counseling to close friends and family members of somebody who's committed suicide in order to prevent more suicides. So for that, I am grateful. I hated going to therapy. I thought that my problems were for me alone. I was in this really sort of toxic mindset. I did begin to self-harm. I didn't quite know how to go about doing it, and I'm not gonna lie, I think I started to try to be cool, as awful as that sounded. I think I started, I wouldn't say for attention, but as a statement. I didn't want anybody to see it, but I did want to fit into this sort of community. It sounds really awful, that I had found online. It sounds so terrible when I say it out loud. Then I was never diagnosed with depression. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I don't think that was right at all, ever. But I did start having wild emotions. I did have a few moments in high school and afterwards where I did seriously consider killing myself. The self-harm became something that I was dependent on, almost like a drug. Every time my mind was racing, I would immediately go to that solution. It was a terrible solution, but that's the solution that I went to. And then finally, in my senior year of high school, one of my teachers referred me to a counselor, and that counselor listened to me without the knowledge of my friends dying or any of this other stuff. She suggested that I go see an actual psychiatrist and talked to them. So I told my parents. My parents were like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, here you go. And they sent me to Kaiser, which is the hospital, I don't know, the provider that we went to. There I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which would explain the wild emotions that I was having. And I started taking medications to alleviate some of those symptoms. At the time I was still self-harming, and I had started getting into disordered eating habits. I technically haven't been diagnosed with an eating disorder, but I can recognize the fact that I have disordered eating habits. Then I graduated high school, amazingly. I still don't know how I did that. And I moved up to Seattle and I started going to art school. That's when things got bad. I stopped taking my medications and I started hallucinating. I was going from manic to depressed to manic really, really, really quickly. I didn't recognize that that's what was happening. I just thought, oh, I don't need any sleep, or wow, I feel really, really terrible. I was still self-harming. I started weighing my foods. I dropped 20 pounds, I think, in about 2 weeks. It was really not good. And then I stopped going to classes. The hallucinations got so bad that I was scared of leaving my room. I think you can see this in some of my vlogs. I really was not okay. And I ended up dropping out of college and moving back home. Once I moved back home, things were sort of under control again. I got a job which gave me a regular schedule, or as regular as a part-time job at a grocery store can be. I started going to therapy again. I got back on medication and things sort of mellowed out. I also think having my family as a form of support during this time was super helpful. And then I started going to school again, and I decided that I wanted to learn more about psychology so I could understand a little bit more of what I was going through. At this time, I was still self-harming, but my parents did not know, and I continued with my disordered eating habits. I made it all the way through community college, and now I am here in Arizona going to University of Arizona for a BA in psychology, and I'm also majoring in English and Korean. Not sure what I'm going to do with those, and I don't know the actual letters for those specific majors. I'm doing better. I'm no longer taking medications. I really do not like the way that they make me feel, and I don't like that on lithium I have to get my blood tested every few weeks. It really bothers me. I really don't like needles. I am currently on a journey of trying to not self-harm. I don't think I've gone a week without self-harm since 2012. I mostly stick to a specific area on my body where I self-harm, and I use the same method over and over again. I'm not gonna explain exactly what that is because I don't want to trigger anybody else. I'm also currently trying to not weigh my food. It's really difficult for me. I really don't like it, but I'm trying to break my habits. I've started seeing a therapist again. I think it's actually been helping me. I'm taking an abnormal psychology class, and I'm trying not to apply everything to my life, but certain things like CBT or CBT was cognitive behavioral therapy. Understanding those techniques and knowing that there are multitudes of reasons as to why I am the way that I am, and so there are multiple ways of coping with the way that I am, is super helpful, I've found. So I'm very glad that I'm doing that, and I do know that this is going to be a lifetime struggle. Not only am I going to have to deal with bipolar for the rest of my life, I'm also going to have to deal with the scars from my self-harming and the mindset of my disordered eating, and I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of those. I do think that a big factor as to why I developed some of the habits that I did is because of certain communities on social media. I know that right now they are monitored more than they were when I was on social media. I do think they played a major role in the specific way that I developed my own bad habits. I'm trying to work through them now, and it's extremely difficult. So I highly encourage you, if anybody out there is struggling with overly heightened emotions, with intrusive thoughts, with destructive behaviors, to seek out help, to talk to people around you. Once you have community support, it becomes that much easier to begin dealing with the things that you are struggling with. And there are a multitude of treatments, and there's a multitude of ways to get help. So there's something for everyone, and it is not your fault. So that's kind of my mental health journey and where I am now, and I'm going to continue on this journey because it never ends. If there's anything you would like to share, go ahead and share in the comments down below. Please be kind and safe to everybody, and if you don't feel like sharing, also totally valid. And I will see you guys the next time. Bye!